Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 217, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is
Lotus Prince.
And we finally got around to continuing our Castlevania saga, Lotus.
Oh, actually, I was hoping to bring up a different subject this week.
Too bad.
Oh.
Oh, wait. No. Go ahead. We'll keep them waiting.
Well, no, I was just trying to distract from the podcast that we're doing right now.
We're just whetting your appetite. But no, we wanted to continue on here to Castlevania because this is when it really starts to get interesting. So first of all, right off the top, I did want to relay a correction to everyone. So I was talking about Legends a couple episodes ago, Castlevania Legends, and I was conflating it with Castlevania Chronicles. Castlevania Legends is actually the third Game Boy game, and we didn't go over it as a result. I thought it was that X6800 or X68000 game that got ported to the PlayStation 1 under Chronicles, but it was actually the third Game Boy game. So I wanted to quickly go over this one. It is easily one of the worst Castlevania games ever made. It's technically pretty terrible, even for a Game Boy game. And just like the level design is generally considered to be pretty darn poor. It does have some interesting things associated with it. It kind of implies, Sonia Belmont is really the first and only. I can't think of any other female Belmont that's been featured in a game.
Yeah, there have been a bunch of playable female characters, but I don't know about a Belmont.
Yeah, she's the only female Belmont to ever be featured, and let alone as the primary playable character. So I thought that was interesting. It also implies that Alucard might be the father of Ralph, aka Trevor, and that she's the mother. At the end of the game, she is seen holding Trevor in a brief cutscene still. But it was a Super Game Boy game. It's probably one of the most expensive games in the series to try to get a hold of because it was not well received, and it was towards the end of the the Game Boy lifespan, the regular Game Boy, before it moved on to color and all that stuff. I think it was a pre-Pokemon game, in the United States. So. It's definitely one of those games that just really didn't mesh well with people. It's been written out of continuity, but I mean, I actually brought this game up in a thread on Twitter about mothers in gaming, playable characters that are mothers.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I actually had real trouble thinking of playable mothers. I was like, there's this one hidden object game I played where you're a mom.
Well, there are more than you think. I mean, if you talk about cross media stuff, well, I mean, you have Ellen Ripley's been a playable character in several games.
Oh, I didn't even know about that because I only ever played as the daughter.
Well, I mean, Ellen Ripley is playable in the Aliens arcade game.
Okay.
She's also in various versions of Alien 3, various versions of Aliens, and Alien. She is a mother. It's not revealed that she is a mother until Aliens, the second movie, but basically all those games were made after that. So it's not like it was a
retroactive
thing or anything. In fact, that's one of the major themes of Aliens, the movie, is that she is a mother who unfortunately missed the entire life of her daughter.
Yeah.
And she kind of has finds a girl that she takes as her own, as kind of like a surrogate. So.
Mm-hmm.
Motherhood is a huge theme in the Alien franchise in general, but it shouldn't be forgotten that she is one of the most badass female characters in movie history, and she's featured in a lot of games.
She kind of does get to meet her child in Alien Resurrection.
Like the alien that came out of her?
Yeah.
No, not really. Not even the original Ripley either. She's like
that's
clone.
Right.
She's a clone.
I forgot
because she died at the end of 3.
The clone who can score a basket in basketball
that's such a
from
stupid
across
scene.
the court. Apparently that was
God.
real, though. Even though it was dumb as shit, apparently it was real.
I mean, it just shouldn't have been in there. Basketball in most movies should not exist. It's like Escape from L.A. had a basketball scene that didn't exist either. Like, unless you're a pro basketball player, I don't want to see it. Because playing basketball is not easy.
But she showed Ron Perlman who's boss.
That's a weird movie, but it's not. It's not so bad that I don't want to watch it.
I like it all right.
It's not too bad, but anyway, I actually like it better than 3, believe it or not. But anyway, I did want to move on and talk about other games in Castlevania. But so we have left the N64 era, which consisted of 1.5 games, basically. Not really 2, but kind of like 1 and then an extra version of 1. And we were moving on into the GBA era, which is actually a significant portion of the series. So from here, this is where things get pretty interesting, because the series kind of has a revitalization at this point. The GBA was releasing, and they wanted to have a solid lineup of launch titles. And there were some pretty decent games for the GBA when it was released. I mean, you had a really kind of odd but fun upgrade of Super Mario Brothers 2. The US version.
I remember seeing that back in high school, where I was really thrown off by the existence of voice acting.
Yeah.
Where Birdo goes, "This is as far as you get," or something like that. Like, what is this?
But it had some pretty neat additions. Like, had gigantic sprites that were never in any other version of that game. Some really cool special effects. It might actually be my favorite version of Mario 2. I actually like Super Mario Advance quite a bit.
It's terrible for speedrunners, because you have to wait for "this is as far as you get."
Jesus. But
shut up.
But what this brings us to is the other major game for the launch of the GBA was Castlevania Circle of the Moon. This was the first 2D Castlevania made since Symphony of the Night and Legends. So, it was a return to form, and it was the first Metroidvania since Symphony of the Night. So,
just for a sec. Yeah, you said return. This was after the 64 games, then.
Exactly.
Okay, I was like, were there any 3D Castlevania? But yeah, the weird 64 ones.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, Circle of the Moon is an interesting game and kind of a curio in terms of the series. You do not play as a Belmont in it. You play as, I forget his name.
Was this Soma Cruz, or was that DS?
No, Soma Cruz is actually in the 3rd game for GBA. No, this is a totally different whip user. He is not related to
Reinhard
the
Schneider.
No, Reinhard is supposedly a Belmont descendant. So, we could still count him as a Belmont, I guess.
If anybody cares.
But Nathan Graves is the character.
Okay.
So part of the conceit of this one is that you're like an apprentice of a Belmont, and his son is kind of your rival, and he gets jealous that you're the one wielding the vampire killer. But yeah, this has an interesting system where you collect these tarot cards and you combine them in order to get different whip powers. So unlike Symphony of the Night, which had like millions of like different weird weapons and stuff. This is a whip game, but it does have an interesting system that lets you get different kinds of whips, like a poison whip or a whip that allows you to freeze enemies so you could use them as platforms, that kind of thing.
Oh, so we're really leaning into the Metroid stuff then.
Yeah, it definitely is more Metroid than Vania, for sure. In terms of that, it does have all of the same trappings. Like it does have warp points, it does have a map, but the rare drops are always going to be like those tarot cards. Some of them are vital to continuing the game, and some of them are not.
Well,
Some
the
of them
vital
are
ones, I'm assuming, come from bosses. Otherwise, they wouldn't be
not
like...
always. In
Really?
fact, one of the weaknesses of this title is that you absolutely need that ice whip in order to progress, because you make platforms with it, and it's kind of a rare drop.
So you have to grind for like
Yes.
plot progression.
Yes,
That's a
exactly.
pain in the ass.
This one is not one of the more well-regarded titles. It also is an extremely dark game, and like in terms of like palette.
Oh, like literally dark.
Yeah, literally dark, and was difficult to play on the original Game Boy Advance when it was released, because the screen wasn't the best. And this was before the SP, so there was no backlight. So
Yeah.
this was a difficult game to play. It's not a terrible game, but its environments are less interesting than a lot of its than the games that come after it, and it also was written out of continuity as well, because like it involves a main character that is not a Belmont. But Konami really wrote every one of their games out of continuity, to be honest, because they don't make games anymore. Really, they have like that Skull Attack game that came out recently, but like it's just small stuff.
Yeah.
This game is mostly remembered as a launch title and as the first like successor to the Metroidvania format. That's where it really has its memory held in people's heads. It was called the dual setup system with the tarot cards. You do a combination of two rows of cards. It was like an effect and something else. I forget how it worked. An action and an attribute. Yeah, that's the way it worked. So it was cool in concept, and also a game that I was happy to see at the time. But looking back on it, it's certainly the weakest of the trilogy. It's best played on a Game Boy player for sure these days, or in emulation. And then moving on from that, I think this is one of the titles that they actually did port to the Wii U, if I'm not mistaken. I need to verify that though. No, I don't think this one did make it. I think only the next one made it, and the one after that. I don't know. I need to verify that. But moving on from that, we had Castlevania Chronicles, which we've already really talked about. We've already covered that in 2001. But basically, right after that, they did Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, which is a pretty fun game. I actually like this one. The sound is probably the weakest part about this game. It's the second GBA game, but it has I like the art style in it, and I like the music. Like if you can put up with the bad sound quality, the music is actually really excellent. Nice. And this was also the first one that was produced by Koji Igarashi. Circle of the Moon was not. So this was his return to the series. This was a good game. I enjoyed it. It also has the return of Legion in this game, I believe, if I remember right. The ball that is made entirely out of corpses.
Yeah.
I enjoy this one. This one has a lot more role playing elements. You play as what's the character in this one? It has two layers: a castle A and a castle B. Um, but it kind of has like that inverse castle kind of appeal that Symphony of the Night had, and there was you play as Just Belmont. That's right, and you have the vampire killer in this one, so it's pretty cool. You can also use it to deflect projectile attacks, which is like the first time you could do that, and you have like a bunch of different sub weapons as well. So different books you can use. This was a fun one. I enjoyed this one. This one gets overlooked compared to a lot of the other titles in the series, because the third one is really where it's at. So the third one that we're moving on to is Aria of Sorrow, and this is where the series really gets jump started again. So this game is very similar to Symphony of the Night in a lot of other ways. It is a non-Belmont, so therefore you can collect all kinds of different weapons. You play as Soma Cruz, which you alluded to earlier, who is the reincarnation of Dracula, a young reincarnation of Dracula.
Is this the game where you could collect the monster's souls on rare occasions?
So this one, I think all of the enemies of the game actually produce a soul. Some of them are rarer than others, and there are important souls that you get from bosses and things like that. But there are, of course, all kinds of other attribute ones that you can collect. This is where it's at. This is where the series really finds its footing again after Symphony of the Night. It's a really good game. I really enjoy this one. It may be a Game Boy Advance game, but it's a lot of fun. I really like this. It's the Tactical Soul System, Lotus. And you could equip up to 3 different types of souls at once, if I remember right. So they have like one that would like one that would enhance your attacks, one that would enhance your movement, and there would be one other type, if I remember right. But yeah, Tactical Soul System. So yeah, you absorb the souls of enemies in order to gain additional abilities, and yeah, all types of enemies eventually yield a unique soul. So that was like the cool thing about this game. It had a lot of replayability if you wanted to collect them all. And it also had a lot of extra modes. Like it had a New Game Plus mode, and you could do a hard mode in it, and it also had a boss rush mode, and then it also did have a Belmont mode. You could play as Julius Belmont in this game, who was nice. A side character. So, kind of like you could play as Richter in Symphony of the Night, you could play as Julius in this one. After you beat it. So, this is the one to go back to if you're going to only, use your time up on a GBA Castlevania game. This is really where it's at, and I think this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this game when it came out, and it's certainly worth your time even today. And that one came out in 2003. So I did want to also touch on the fact that this game had a direct sequel, which we will eventually get to as well. So that it's a good one. So after this, in 2003, they did return to try to make a 3D Castlevania, Lotus.
Really?
This was Lament of Innocence, the PlayStation 2 game.
Oh, those. Okay, yeah. Well, I should know. There were 2 of them. There was Lament of Innocence, and what was it, like Harmony of Dissonance?
Curse of Darkness.
Okay.
Yeah, Curse of Darkness is the second one. So
I was thinking of that title, but yeah, I remember there were that they like didn't quite play like traditional Castlevanias, but you could tell they were Castlevania games.
So, the style was certainly inspired by Devil May Cry, if you ask me. And really everything should be. If you ask me, Devil May Cry was a better 3D Castlevania game than any of these games ever were. Because Devil May Cry has that gothic atmosphere down.
It really does.
It really does have a great 3D action gameplay feel, and is still successful to this day. I mean, the fifth game, which is the most recent one, was a successful game and is still very fun. Whereas 3D Castlevania games have petered out once again. But Lament of Innocence, I was really excited to play because this was supposed to be the title in the Castlevania series. It was supposed to be the first Belmont to have a whip to fight Dracula. And it was supposed to be before Sonya. Sonya got written out, and this became the new original title, and it's set in the earliest time period, which is 1094, so pretty
Wow.
darn early. And you play as Leon Belmont.
Leon S. Belmont.
Leon Kennedy Belmont. But yeah, no, this one does have the action part down. It does have a good action feel. However, the major thing that I don't like about this game is that every single room is extremely cookie cutter. It feels exactly the same from room to room. And it definitely feels like the game could have used a lot higher budget. This one was also headed by Koji Igarashi, so this was his first 3D title, and he doesn't have the best track record with 3D games. There was another game that he made called Nano Breaker around this time as well, and it uses the same engine.
About that.
It's very mediocre, even for the time. And going back to it, you wouldn't want to waste your time with it, that kind of thing. So there are certainly better action games for this time period. I mean, the most notable thing is that this is a Castlevania game. It's not a terrible game, but it was never a game I felt like I needed to finish. Let's just put it that way. I was excited to get it, and it had a decent reception, and I just didn't end up beating it because I just fell off of it. It just wasn't that great, to be honest. It's okay, it's one of those games that's okay, and it'll remain that way in history. And if you're gonna go back and play these games, you're gonna play the classic games or the Symphony of the Night games way before you would play this. And then the next one was Dawn of Sorrow, which of course is the sequel to Aria of Sorrow. This is the DS Castlevania game, the first
Dawn
DS Castlevania.
Sorrow, haha.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a direct sequel to Aria of Sorrow. It is one of the best games in the series. It's a really awesome game. They kind of double down on that anime aesthetic. It is the most anime-looking game out of the whole bunch. If you look at the character portraits, you'll be like, wow, that's anime as shit. It does have a couple goofy, DS gimmicks. Like, there are a couple times where you have to break ice blocks with your stylus, and when you beat a boss, you have to seal them by doing a pattern on the screen. But I think somebody's patched those out, like fan patched those out, so you can play that without it. But it's a shame that the DS games have not been ported at all, even on the Wii U when they had the opportunity, because the DS Castlevanias are some of the best, including this one. This one is a fantastic game. I really, really love it. It's the same thing as the GBA game, but better. It has a higher resolution. It looks better. It's just it takes a good game and iterates on it, and even gives you a choice to be good or evil. You can choose to be the evil reincarnation of Dracula. or you can move forward. It also is the game that is furthest in the future, which is kind of funny. They released the game that is furthest in the past, and then this game is the furthest in the future. It's actually takes place in what time period? It's supposed to take place in I think 2094.
Wow.
If I'm not mistaken. So it's supposed to be in the future of our own timeline. Yeah, let me see here. Well, at least Aria of Sorrows in 2094, and then the second one is a few years later. So that I think that's the way it works. But yeah, this is an absolute banger of a title in this series. I really, really do recommend it. If you can track it down. I'm sorry. The first one takes place in 2035. Not too terribly far away. Yeah, this one takes place like a year or two later, I believe. But this one is like the last one, but even better. I really, really like this title. When it came out for the DS, I was extremely excited, and I was not let down. Like, the boss battles in it are a lot of fun. The graphics are really great. It just has it all. It's one of those things. It also has one of the funniest re-release covers of all time. Have you ever seen the Konami Best version of this?
It's a picture of the game case. It's like those Sega Master System covers where every
they're holding the cartridge.
Yeah, what are you doing? The art is you holding the game. Thanks.
It's hilarious. I think it's the only title to have that branding too.
Yeah, because it's fucking dumb.
But yeah, this is certainly a good one. I think the price of an official copy of this is pretty high at this point, because it's one of those DS games that you absolutely would want.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. And you know what? I think we're gonna leave it there, because I want to give the next two titles on the DS their due, and we also have a couple spin-offs. And we're rounding our time for our fan stuff. So why don't we move on, Lotus, and move on to fan stuff?
Why, sure. So we got some comments here. School Filmer says, I did enjoy the showcase. I'm always ready for more Puyo Puyo and Tetris. Maybe I'll snag it if it goes for half price, like with the first one. Also, Moon looks interesting, especially since it reminds me of Gift Pia in a few aspects, like leveling up by collecting love, or the time stamina system, the way the characters speak. It took 20 years or so, but it's finally in English.
It's funny you should say that, because it's made by the same people as Gift Pia.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And School Filmer also says, expanding on the bestiary question, I did quite enjoy Dragon Quest XI's list of enemies. The enemies in the past worlds as illustrations instead of models when you view their entries. That's not as common anymore. That's pretty cool. Guess I forgot about that mention. Anyway, I would have liked to see something like the You Don't Know Jax of old. Maybe something like Volume 4, The Ride, 5th Dementia, or Louder, Faster, Funnier, with episodes. A max of 3 players, good old Q, B, and P. Special question types, good old snarkiness of the host, and some pretty good jokes. And while I'm thinking about it, maybe something like Illbleed. We bring that up every once in a while. Every something like Illbleed would be interesting, using the different senses and a device to mark and disarm traps. Could probably take place inside an arcade, and the various games contained within get a few endings. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, I still don't understand how to play that game.
I gotta look into that, because that does look
bizarre.
legitimately interesting, but it's so odd.
Yeah.
And then Connor has a couple comments. Regarding bestiaries, I had the official strategy guides for Final Fantasies 7 through 10, and they each had a bestiary section at the back. I would read these over and over, not to become better at the game, but just because as a kid, this sort of stuff was the most interesting thing in the world to me. Yeah, I was very similar. I mean, I loved reading the Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual, even though I almost never tried actually playing Dungeons & Dragons. It's just cool. I will say, though, one thing does kind of bug me. I forgot if I mentioned this last week or not, but when strategy guide bestiaries are intentionally incomplete, like they don't have the final boss on there because spoilers.
I hate that.
And it's like, just come on.
Yeah.
Why did I buy this thing? You know,
exactly.
Like, if I want to spoil myself, which I don't, but if I did, then let me.
Exactly.
And it says, you mentioned it in the podcast, but I would love a bestiary for Bloodborne.
Yeah, the official strategy guide is the way to go for that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because the comments goes on to say, if FromSoft released a physical bestiary with enemy artwork and corresponding stats info, like they kind of did, about each one, I'd pay quite a bit of money for it. Yeah, there's the strategy and there's the official artworks, but I think the strategy guide, I don't think it has a dedicated bestiary section, but each enemy is covered.
Yeah, and it does have a description of what they are and who they are in story.
Yeah, it doesn't have like I don't know if it has stats. I don't remember, but it probably does because it tells you like what they can drop and how often and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah. And then Connor also says Doom Eternal makes far more sense if you think about it as a first-person action game, like Devil May Cry or Ninja Gaiden. I mean, those aren't first person, but like the action stuff.
Sure.
Rather than an FPS. It's not about precision aiming and lightning fast reflexes. It's about learning the mechanics and using them correctly.
I like that better, personally.
Yeah. Once you make the mental shift to this, Eternal is amazing. I think the Marauder gets a lot of flack because it's the enemy that highlights this the most. You can't defeat it by unloading your entire arsenal into it. You have to learn how to fight it. Fighting a Marauder in Eternal is kind of like fighting a Hunter in Bloodborne. Wait for the opening, parry, heavy attack, repeat. I can understand why people bounced off of it. They were expecting more Doom 2016, a more traditional FPS. But for me, it's easily one of the best games of 2020 so far, and even though I'm not normally very good at FPS games, I managed to beat it in ultra-violence difficulty.
That's nice. Awesome. I really want to go back to Doom Eternal because the reception of that is getting warmer and warmer over time. People say like the longer you play it, the better it gets.
Now they understand it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last commenter is Living Corpse. 2020 has shown we need a mental health reform because a lot of people are nuts. And then switching over, Snake Eater's best cutscene is when the director of the CIA, not John A. McCone, kicks Big Boss's ass for refusing to shake his hands. Yeah, have you ever seen that in the Secret Theater?
No.
That is funny as shit. Because you know in that ending scene where he shakes a couple people's hands, but he passes that guy over and he just stands there awkwardly? In the Secret Theater, I think it was on Subsistence, but it did not carry over to the HD collection, unfortunately. And it's like the funniest part of the game. It's a real shame. But like when it shows Snake passing him by, it shows a close up of his face going like and he just gets like super mad. It's really funny. Like they have some
like any of those guys can actually like kick Big Boss's ass. Come on.
I know. But like some of the Secret Theater stuff is hysterical. Like do you remember the big chase with the Shagohod when you're driving on the airport tarmac and there's a big plane sitting there and the wing is in the way and he just crashes into the wing and just sends the plane flying? In the Secret Theater, when he touches the wing, the plane doesn't move an inch and the Shagohod just goes flying over it. It's really comical looking. Look up the Secret Theater on YouTube. It is like some of that stuff is laugh out loud funny because it's so stupid. Goofy. It's like a Konami thing. Like you know how when you see Silent Hill's joke endings, they're so stupid in such a serious game that it's funnier than it would have been in a vacuum. It's like that. When you see the dumb shit in Metal Gear Solid 3 Secret Theater, it's great. And Living Corpse also says Doom Eternal was going to have the pistol, but they felt it slowed down the flow of combat. They could have just given it a mod where you upgraded to a machine pistol. And speaking of the color cyan, I always thought it was cool how in Resurrection of Evil, when the Vulgars teleport and the lightning was cyan instead of orange like the other demons. I forgot about that, but that is a cool little quirk. Remember Doom 3 Resurrection
color,
of Evil?
Isn't cyan a blue color?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know how I remember that? There was like a trivia game like that was advertised when we were kids. It had like a commercial where it was like a like bomb diffusing expert was like cut the cyan wire and he just didn't know what cyan was.
Oh god. That reminds me of some. I had seen something similar where someone was looking to buy a car. It was like, do you have a car in like burgundy or whatever? And it's like, what do you mean, like red, like or brown or something like that? It's like, dude, come on, dude. Like, I mean, I know that there are shades that you would want to make distinctions for, but it's kind of funny. Like, you like literally life and death. Quick, the cyan wire. Like, unless every wire is some shade of blue, then like get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
All right, so the question is from Sabrina Hengel. What was a unique dish you didn't think would taste good, but ended up being really delicious after you actually tried it out? This is a real problem for me because I'm a very picky eater, and most of my revelations are like normal ass food that I didn't try until years later. So I don't even know if I can really answer this question. It's like shrimp. Turns out it's not bad. Who would have guessed that everyone in the world eats it, and it's actually like that means it's not a bad thing. It's like it's stuff like that. I don't know if I have a good answer for this one, unfortunately. I tried tongue once in K-Town. Maybe that's as far as I'll go.
Oh wow, tongue. That's something I haven't tried.
That's one of those things where if you didn't tell me what it was, it's like, oh, it's meat. I can eat that. It's like that for me.
Wow, I can't believe you've had tongue, but you haven't had pineapple. That's hilarious.
And the same goes for haggis. When I was in Scotland, they served me haggis, and it's one of those things where it's like, if you describe what a low quality hot dog is made of, you're like, oh, well, now that I know, I don't know if I want to eat it. Because, like, haggis is not a low quality dish, but it's made of all sorts of gross stuff. But, like, it's fine.
Yeah, it just tastes like food, right?
It's food.
And I'm sure the quality varies depending on who makes it, just like anything else.
Like, yeah, any other food. Yeah. You can have a shitty hot dog. You can have a great hot dog.
Yeah. For me, geez, I'm a pretty... I'm the kind of guy who will try a lot of different things. So I'll put in a genuine effort, unless it's just something that like just completely skeeves me.
Yeah.
So this is actually kind of a hard thing for me to answer because like I very rarely have been skeeved by the look of something and then ended up like really like taking to it.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever had a problem with just the outright look of something.
Or look and smell or idea of,
Smell, certainly, because smell is, like, more taste than actual taste. But,
sure.
But for look, the only time I would say look just really turns me off is if something is, like, overly cheesy or creamy. That just turns me off immediately.
Well, I would say probably eggplant, because, like, I did not like eggplant for a very long time as a kid. Just like it's one of those things that you just if you're not used to it, you just don't even want to deal with it.
And you always saw it as like actively like trying to harm you because you played Kid Icarus.
Well, that's actually a thing. So in America, the stereotypical like kids don't like this food is usually broccoli.
Broccoli, spinach,
or Brussels sprouts. Is
it's
usually
a classic.
Yeah. Those are the ones that are usually like the stereotypical thing. But in Japan, it's like kids don't like eggplant actually. So that's why
funny. Yeah.
that's why the eggplant wizard is a thing. That's why the eggplant is like the demon in Adventure Island. He's like saps all your hunger.
That's so funny.
It saps your hunger meter all the way down. But yeah, I actually really like eggplant. It's also one of those dishes that needs to be prepared correctly and is difficult to prepare correctly. So, like, if you have bad eggplant, it can be like pretty gross. But I actually really love eggplant when it's prepared really well. So I'll throw that out there because it definitely has a unique texture, but some of my favorite like Chinese dishes, for instance, with purple eggplant, are like some of my favorite dishes to get when I go out. I love that. I'm trying to think of other things. Like I really did not like the taste of coffee for a long time, and now I'm a big coffee drinker. That's one of those things.
Coffee I'm weird with. Like I thought it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just never really pursued it, although I love coffee-flavored things.
Yeah, well, coffee is like one of those things that you kind of have to ease yourself into. So
yeah, I mean, it is bitter, and that's weird as a kid. But I thought the taste was all right.
Yeah,
like my parents would let me try like a little bit, like of the dregs of a cup or something. Like, yeah,
sure,
it's all right. But like, I just never really got into it.
It's certainly one of those things that you have to grow a taste for. So like you start with a lot of like cream and sugar in it, obviously, to kind of and then when it's dressed up like that, it's not too different from like a warm Yoo-hoo or something like that. But
you know what it makes me think of, because you work your way toward like blacker and blacker, because that's what the coffee actually is. You know what it actually makes me think of is chocolate.
Sure.
Because if you have like, dark chocolate's better than milk chocolate, but if you go for 90% dark right now, you'll be like, what? No. What is this?
You have to work your way up.
But yeah, it's gotten to the point where I quite like like 80-85%.
I like 80, and 85 is okay, but 90 is...
Yeah, it's getting to the point where people... I don't know how many people realize chocolate is... It's not... chocolate. It's like extremely bitter.
Yeah, I mean, I am a black coffee drinker. In fact, I have a cup of black coffee like right in front of me as we're recording. I don't even like it with cream and sugar anymore. I'll every once in a while I'll have a cappuccino.
Okay.
But I actually like prefer it as black now. I just have a taste for it that way, unless it's bad coffee. If it's bad coffee, the only way to redeem it is with some cream and sugar. But I particularly don't dislike Dunkin' Donuts. I'm very reasonably sure that Dunkin' Donuts coffee is not made with a black coffee drinker in mind, because their black coffee is terrible. I'm firmly in the opinion that they make it specially formulated to taste good with sugar and cream, and that's what the majority of their customer base gets it that way, and I just hate it in general. There are some people that just like it with cream and sugar as it is. Like my fiance loves coffee, but she doesn't like it black at all. So it's just like a personal taste kind of thing when it comes to coffee and tea that as well. I mean, I think when most people in America have tea, they drink it black or maybe with a little bit of lemon or sugar. But in the UK, you see all forms of it. Yeah, there's plenty of people that drink it with milk or cream and sugar and all that stuff. I love black tea though. I usually like all kinds of things like that. Yeah, it's just one of those things. I hated seltzer for a long time, but now I love it. I drink it all the time.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else but unique dish. That's the thing.
That's the thing. Yeah, like I mean, haggis and tongue are about as unique as I get, but they're not like, look at this weird thing. It's just like not typical American thing to eat.
I mean, when I was a teenager, nobody. This was still a relatively new thing. It was a hip and trendy thing, like for like the rich people and for people that were socialites and things like that. Sushi was becoming popular.
I remember when I was in elementary school. It's like, it's raw fish, and everyone's like, but why would you eat raw fish? Like we didn't quite get what it was.
Yeah, it was basically something only Californians really had, that kind of thing, and it kind of makes me think of like the Babysitter's Club when she comes in with sushi, and that was in the 80s. When she comes in with sushi, people are like, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah, like that's the entire joke, like the existence of sushi.
Yeah. But like you have to remember, like even in the late 90s, like sushi was not that commonplace. And now it's it's a big deal now.
No, like again, in elementary school, I was literally learning what it was, like in class.
Yeah, you can get sushi.
Had some student from Korea.
Yeah, you can get sushi in literally almost any supermarket in my area. Like even the supermarkets make it. It's that common. Like you don't even need to go to a specialty restaurant or anything for it.
I was gonna say it also helps that I happen to have like an Asian market in my area anyway.
Well, no, and I mean a mainstream supermarket.
They've gotten a lot more expansive and comprehensive.
Yeah, the local Giant and Wegmans stores and Whole Foods stores, which are all in my area, all have sushi.
Mm-hmm.
And that you could buy pre-made, or you can even get like sushi grade fish and bring it home and make your own. So I mean, like, it was a big deal for me to try sushi, but that I certainly really enjoyed it and got a taste for it. But like getting over the fact that like you're told to not eat raw meat from a young age, especially we were. Growing up. So like it was one of those, and there are still some cultures that have a hard problem with that. I know that like a lot of Italian people of Italian descent are really skeeved out by sushi, because they're basically told like it's basically poison. It's gonna make you sick. Like my dad came over from Italy when he was young, and he was like 5 years old, so he's very firmly ingrained in that idea. So he won't even try it. And my dad,
even though there's an entire country's worth of people that like
exactly, and
it's an island and they eat nothing but fish.
He's seen me eat it a billion times too.
Yeah.
It's verified that this is okay.
Yeah, they managed to survive somehow for hundreds and thousands of years.
But it's just one of those things. I mean, like there are certain cultures that think that cheese is something that's gross.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, it's another one of those things, like learning how the sausage is made. If you really look at what cheese is and think about it, it's like, but
they think it's rotten milk, and it is.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
It is rotten milk, but it's delicious.
I mean, it's the same thing with alcohol. It's like fermented grapes. It's like you shouldn't put that in your mouth, but like everyone in the world does.
Yeah, or vinegar is even the further distillation of that. So.
Yep.
Or the further process of that. So, it's whatever's left over by, what the yeast didn't eat, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's one of those things. I'm usually pretty good, but anything involving, like organs, I'm not too keen on.
Haggis.
I've had it. Like I've had tripe. And I didn't want to try it, but I tried it, and I still didn't. I hated it.
Okay.
I'm one of those people that'll give it a shot. I'm not a fan of pate. I'm also not a fan of the way it's made. I think it's extremely cruel process. Duck liver pate. It doesn't taste good. I don't think it's worth it. I'm alright on caviar because I eat sushi and that basically has caviar all over it all the time. I can't think of anything that's just like really, really funky. I have friends that really like Scrapple. I don't know if you even know what Scrapple is.
It's a very entertaining board game.
Let me take out my Scrapple dictionary. So. Scrapple is a Philadelphia area delicacy that consists of the meat that was not good enough to make it into a hot dog.
Whoa.
So like various ears and such, and of pigs, and mixed together with cornmeal and then fried up. In slices?
I can kind of believe that though, because aren't there just like ears you could eat just anyway, like in like jerky form?
Yes, but it's usually for dogs.
That is true.
I mean, there are plenty of cultures that are okay with eating things like jowls and things like that. I just am not. I'm a little too mainstream, I guess. I'm not into head cheese. Head cheese, I'm not going anywhere near head cheese. There's a particular episode of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives with Guy Fieri. You know Guy Fieri, right?
Well, of course.
He's the mayor of Flavortown. How would you not know him?
I was gonna say, it's so strange that he has all these diners, drive-ins, and drives that are all in the same place, which is Flavortown.
He went to a Philly area restaurant and met up with Mark Semmers of Double Dare fame, and because he lives in the Philadelphia area, and they went to this like restaurant that I had never heard of, which is unusual because I'm pretty hip with the Philadelphia area restaurants because I live near Philly and we go to a lot of the restaurants that are really cool over there, and one of their specialties was their head cheese, and Mark Summers was like nope to the fuck out. He literally went off a camera and was like, I am done. I'm not going anywhere near that.
I might be misremembering which person this was. I think it was the Double Dare guy though. Doesn't he have like some sort of...
He has obsessive compulsive disorder.
That's what it was. Yeah, he has this. I was gonna say germaphobe kind of, but maybe it's more just he doesn't want to get dirty.
No, he has obsessive compulsive disorder, but
Because, like, I think I remember people saying the fact that he was willing to do Double Dare, where they have, like, all that, the gack dropping on you and shit, like, it's like, that must have been such a huge thing for him.
Well, yeah, and but he's also a consummate professional, so, like, he knows how to be a good host, and that's one of the things, is that, like, he probably has the drive to, like, to be a good host more than anything. Sure. So, like, so that counteracts his aversion to things, but, this was just something he couldn't get. Like, and I don't blame him, because I almost threw up while watching them make it. And this is supposedly good quality head cheese, and I do not recommend it. I've never almost thrown up from watching a like a cooking show, and that almost got me. And I'm not squeamish. It was and Guy Fieri's like you can see the look on his face where he has to be positive, because Diners, Drive-Ins and Dives is a positive show. It's not a critique.
Yeah, it's not a review show where you like see what he thinks. Like, he's always like, oh, this is cool, because he's going to a real person's restaurant.
Yeah, he's trying to promote it for them. He's trying to find cool places that you may want to visit. So he's not trying to critique it. So, like, if it's known for something, he's going to try it. And he tastes it, and he's just like, oh, yeah, that's good.
That sucks.
He's like, oh, yeah, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
But, like, Mark Summers literally noped off a camera and did not go back on, even after he tried it. So it was really funny, like, at the time, because just look up the clip of it. He's just like, oh, I am the fuck out of here, and I don't blame him. Like, it was one of those things. He did not do it for show. He was literally afraid of it. But I think we, like I said, I'm pretty willing to try most things. So, anything else that you wanted to touch on, Lotus, before we wrap things up here?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay, that is the show for this week. We want to thank all of our fans who contributed questions and comments. You guys have been really, really great lately. I keep saying that, but you really have. You've been really engaged. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. Do we have a fair reserve, or do we?
I think we have 3 more questions.
That's really good, but keep them coming. We don't want to get dry. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. You don't want me to come up with the question that I have, just in case. You don't.
What is the next set of Castlevania games we're going to talk about? Why, I'm glad I asked.
What's the next set of Castlevania games that we're going to put off indefinitely? It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much everything.
And you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then please consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we will catch everybody on Tuesday then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye.